Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concepts. I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor. Thank you for joining me here today on this first Cabral HouseCall of the weekend, where we're able to get into our community's questions. So many great questions coming in each and every week. I'm excited to be able to reach back out, answer these questions to the best of my ability, and at least, without really knowing you, giving you the best place that I believe for you to get started. So that could be anything from just some advice, or whether it might be motivation, might be a different place to look because you've already tried this, and this lab, or you've tried, working with these particular type of practitioners, or maybe it is a lab suggestion. Happy to do that as well. Anything you want me to review, if it's within my scope, I'm always happy to give you my advice on that. So we always have so many great questions, and I know a lot of people have been really taking advantage of it, but over at cabralsupportgroup.com, it's our free Facebook group, and then cabralsupportgroup.com just links on over there. So instead of waiting 8 weeks or so for me to answer your question on one of our Cabral HouseCalls, and they're all answered in the order that they come in, you are welcome, of course, just to go to cabralsupportgroup.com and have your question answered there, usually the same day, Monday through Friday, instead by my amazing team of health coaches, and that is Caitlin and Laura and Julia and Michelle over there. And of course, I chime in as well a couple times a week. So always happy to do that. And one more thing about that is if my health coaching team does not know the answer, well, a couple times a day, they send me over the questions they don't have the answers to, and I answer them for them, and then we add it to our frequently asked questions. So you'll always get the answer that you need over there. And then for some of the ones that you want maybe a little bit more personalization, I'm happy to do that on these house calls. So without further ado, why don't we get into it? The first question is coming in from Kara. Kara's asking, "Hi, Dr. Brawl. I purchased the greens because you were out of your brand. I have celiacs. After a few uses, I was reading the label more closely, and there was no gluten-free certified marker on the container. I stopped for the use, but want to get your opinion if you think the greens is safe. Some websites said it was gluten-free, while others had no mention of it being gluten-free or not. I know contamination can come from incorrect timing or harvesting wheat and barley grass. Thanks." All right, Kara, great question. I actually don't know the greens powder that you're referring to. I know you said it's like our Equilibrium greens, but I'm not sure that I know the one that you're speaking to because ours is the very unique 22 organic fruits and vegetables. It is gluten-free. And keep in mind that it's what the FDA certifies as gluten-free is below 20 parts per million. I believe it's below 20 or 0.20 parts per million. That's what we go by. That's what the FDA regulates it at. Really difficult to get a wheatgrass, barley grass, any of the grasses completely gluten-free. But that's what we strive for. That's what we do. What I tell people in general is, so we help people with celiac all the time. I mean, honestly, celiac, Crohn's, colitis, IBS, SIBO, Candida, we specialize in gut-based issues. Now, those people with celiac are going to be more prone towards having a gluten-based reaction, more of an autoimmune-based rather than just an inflammatory reaction within the intestines themselves. But most people we work with, when we're able to help them really decrease that inflammation, repair the gut wall, go through all of, they've run the organic acids test, or they've run the stool test, they figure out what's going on there. We help really repair that. And no one seems to have that big a deal, even honestly, with every once in a while having a little bit of gluten. Now, am I recommending that to you? No, because I don't know you personally. I don't know your level of sensitivity. But most people we work with, even when there might be a little bit of contamination, they do totally fine. And that's because, again, they've emptied that rain barrel. So when you empty your rain barrel and when you really get healthy, like for myself, if I have some night shades, well, it's not going to flare up my joints, right? But if I go overboard, maybe have like 3 or 4 days in a row, well, yes, then it will inflame my joints. So kind of have to know your level of sensitivity and how quickly your rain barrel fills back up. For some people, it fills up faster than others. And some of that's genetic predisposition, but always keep in mind that genetics is kind of that thing that sits in the background. Every single person, I believe, can be completely healthy. And that's because our genetics, again, are things that we unlock, that we turn on and off based on environment. And that can be toxicities, that can be foods, that can be heavy metals. It can be anything, right? Anything can flip on that switch of that epigenetic component. So hopefully that is to answer your question, but I cannot confirm any other companies except Equilibrium Nutrition. And that's because I see all the certificate of analysis for our products. And so I know that they're heavy metal free and gluten free if they're marked that way and all the other things. So hopefully that helps. All right, Sophia's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral and team. You were recommended to me as a good research for potentially getting a second opinion on some medical issues I have going on. I'm 25-year-old, pregnant female. The backstory is I've always had hypothyroid symptoms, but normal labs by standard medicine. 2017, I saw a naturopath, tested antibodies, found a large nodule on the side of my neck. Antibodies were elevated, indicative of hashimotos. Naturopath suggested seeing an endocrinologist. Had an ultrasound done, and there was a suspicious malignancy. I've had a follow-up test. They came back abnormal or inconclusive. Sample sent for genetic pathology screening, which came back as having the mutation for positive for malignancy. Recommended a thyroidectomy, which means basically taking the thyroid out. Once my baby is born, I want to do what's best, but something doesn't sit right about me with the whole thyroid taken out. I'm mostly concerned about the impact of not having a thyroid and my overall health. Hoping to get a second opinion of a complete thyroidectomy. Sounds reasonable. If that sounds reasonable in my case, thank you. All right, Sophia, so you know that I can't give you medical advice, but you know you will get my best advice and what I would do with someone in my own family or myself. This is exactly what I would do. Now, again, keep this in mind. This is not medical advice, and this is not what you should do. This is what I would do, or someone in my family, I would say this. Okay, you're going to have the baby. Keep in mind that your immune system changes when you're pregnant and not pregnant. I wish more doctors talked about that, because a lot of people get autoimmune issues when they're pregnant, or they had autoimmune issues before they were pregnant, and then they got pregnant and the autoimmune issues went away. Well, we know that because there's actually a change in what's called Th1 and Th2 dominance. And your body does that on purpose. And it does that on purpose so that your own body does not attack the fetus that you're obviously growing inside of you. So what you want to do is you want to look at your immune system will actually be different. And that means there could be a really good possibility that, let's say, 6 months after you give birth and you've been doing all the healthy things for your body and you start to really kind of rebuild that gut or seal the gut up as best you can, that if there's any, it's hard to do a lot of these protocols we have, like the CBO protocol and the heavy metal detox, because you don't want any of that to go into your milk supply if you're nursing. So it just depends on the severity that your specialists believe. Like, is this something that needs to be done immediately? Well, if it is, well, that's a different story. But for me, I'd say, okay, let me look at the antibodies. Let me look at the reasons for antibodies, why the immune system overactive. So I would look at gut-based dysfunctions. I would run an organic acids test. I would run a stool-based test. I would look at those sensitivities. I would be put on our sensitive gut guide, our specific elimination diet. I would seal up the gut wall at the very minimum. I would do a low protocol, even if you are nursing, to kind of get out some of that bacteria or yeast. And then I would begin to rebalance that body and immune system. After that, I would retest my levels. If the levels of antibodies are low and showing no indication of Hashimoto's, well, then I might wait on that thyroidectomy or a partial thyroidectomy if the thyroid can still survive after that. If you have to have the thyroidectomy, well, you'll simply be put on some type of medication to give your body the synthetic thyroid that it needs, or you might choose a compounded version, such as an Armour or Nature Thyroid, one of those specific ones. So just a couple different options for you. I just would love to see what your antibodies look like when you are no longer pregnant. That's my opinion. Okay, hopefully that helps. Sarah's up next. Hi, I came across Steve Cabral's podcast a month ago, and I've been watching every day since. Just want to let you know that you guys have been so helpful, and I wish I'd found you earlier. Anyway, thanks for all you're doing. Here's my question. Why do I get so bloated whenever I take my morning smoothie breakfast? Here's usually what I put in my smoothie. Berries, frozen bananas, pea protein, quarter of an avocado or coconut milk, dates or figs, kale, sprinkle of cinnamon powder, and a topping of chia seed, nuts, seeds, goji's, mulberries, unsweetened coconut flakes, buckwheat, and occasional cacao nibs. All right, I can answer this for you easily, Sarah. So one of those foods is causing it to basically ferment in the stomach or cause bloating. Now, this is the thing. I love when people get like really into smoothies and they add so many amazing things. I love it. But here's the thing. You've got about a dozen things in your smoothie, and I would not be able to tell you which one you're sensitive to, but you're sensitive to one. Here's exactly what we do, because this happens maybe to 1 out of, let's say, 30 people in our practice. So we say, okay, here's what we want to do. And we do this for everything. So you have to keep in mind, I did a podcast, and I hope you listen to Sarah. It's something, how to make your own rotation diet or how to do your own rotation diet. Just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in rotation diet. You'll find out exactly how to do it right there. But I'm going to tell you just how to do it for a smoothie rather than just for meals. All you need to do is take something like our daily nutritional support powder, which is going to be much better than the pea protein powder you're doing right now, because it has all your vitamins, all your minerals, your antioxidants. It has your liver support. I mean, it's going to cost the same, but it's going to be way better. So what you're going to do is simply shake that up with water, okay? And you're going to sip that over the course of, let's say, an hour. Do you get any bloating from that? If the answer is no, then great. That's not the issue. So then what we're going to do is this. We're going to blend up those frozen blueberries, okay? And then you're going to drink that the next day. And you're going to say, did I get any bloating? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, well, I think you can tell what I'm going to say next. You'll move on to the bananas, or you'll move on to your avocado, and then you'll try that. And do you get any bloating? If the answer is no, you'll move on to the next. If the answer is yes, well, you found at least one of the culprits that's causing you bloating. So once you find that, you simply take it out. You can try it again in 6 weeks to 12 weeks, and you can obviously look for that. Just keep in mind, in my opinion, the things that are going to affect you the most would be the fig, the kale, especially if it's raw, or maybe some of the nuts. And the reason I say that is that those, well, nuts are just hard to digest. Kale's hard to digest, and the figs might be fermentable if you have any yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth. So easy way to do it, easy way to figure it out, Sarah. That's basically free. That you can figure that all out yourself for no cost. Hopefully that helps. Okay, next question is from Ryan. Ryan said, I recently took the food sensitivity test and came up high for dairy, wheat, gluten, eggs, baker and brewer's yeast, and almonds. So I have a few questions. I'm finding it very hard to find foods that don't contain all these, especially snacks, as most of the gluten-free items that I find are made with almonds. Any suggestions on where or what I can eat for food choices? There are only so many fruits and vegetables I can eat before I want to rip open a bag of potato chips and eat the whole thing. Is gluten-free the same as yeast-free? If not, please explain the difference. Number 3, how do I calculate the number of calories I should be eating per day? How do you calculate the number of macros? I do intermittent fasting. She kind of went on to go, or Ryan went on to go over the rest. So Ryan, let's get to all 3 of your questions. All right. So when you do our food sensitivity tests, and again, none of them are our labs, we simply provide you the best of the best at equilibriumnutrition.com. So, and then you can choose it. The food sensitivity test is one of our most popular. People do it with their kids. They do it with themselves, have their parents do it, and just shows you the data, like Ryan found out, of a dairy sensitivity, wheat, gluten, eggs, brewer's yeast, and almonds. Okay, so just right off the bat, gluten-free is not the same as yeast-free. So you can get gluten-free bread, but it can still contain yeast. Yeast makes things rise. So you'll want to make sure that you're not getting gluten-free bread that still contains yeast. All right, so that's really important. That was number 2. Number 1 was, how do you find foods that don't contain almonds? Well, that's actually not that challenging. So, and I'm not coming down to you, Ryan, because I remember in the beginning when I was on this journey being gluten-free and all these things many, many years ago, over 20 years ago now, and it was challenging. But now, you have so many options. You really do. Meaning that if you want a bag of chips, not that I'm recommending chips because they're not a health food, most chips are gluten-free. So you can get them, you can just look in the back. Like there's a brand that we'll sometimes get, especially if we're doing a barbecue with friends of the weekend, and it's made with potatoes, it's made with avocado oil, and it says sea salt and rosemary, I believe. That's it. 4 ingredients, completely gluten-free. Potatoes don't have gluten, made with rosemary, avocado oil, and sea salt, like Himalayan sea salt. Super simple. You can get plantain chips. Plantain chips would obviously come from plantains, and they usually have coconut oil, something like that, and sea salt. So there's a bunch of things that you can get. I know that you can do it. I think the reason why you're seeing so much almond is that you're following a paleo-style diet, and paleo people love to use almond flour and almond in everything. I actually don't think that's a good idea. I think it's totally unnatural to get that much nut in your diet. And the reason is that there's no way you'd be eating a half a cup of nuts. Again, nuts in nature, you'd have to break open all the shells. You'd have to crack them, and they oxidize when you turn them into a powdered flour. So that's not my number 1 suggestion at all. I would just say, Ryan, with a little bit more experimentation, you're going to find all the, literally just keep reading those labels. It's a great education. You'll be able to find out all those things. And if you're not strict on paleo, meaning you don't have to be paleo, then you can also find oat flour, which is a great one as well. So many great ones. Okay. Number 3, how do you calculate the number of calories? I've done this before on previous Training Thursdays and other podcasts, and I've talked about macros as well. I think people are way too into this, meaning that you currently weigh 205 and you want to get down to 195 or 200. It's only 5 or 10 pounds. Super easy to do. Ryan, my number 1 suggestion is literally just to do a 14 or 21 day Dr. Cabral detox. You'll lose the 5 or 10 pounds easily, and then it will teach you the style of eating to be able to maintain that. because I did a podcast called How Not to Retox After a Detox, and it shows you how to gradually ease back into your diet, and that will allow you then to maintain the weight that you want to maintain. So all of these things are covered on previous podcasts, without a doubt. I just think that most people don't need to be so rigid about their macros in general. I need you to focus on the quality of your food. Half your plate should be vegetables. A quarter of the plate for most people, not everyone, but most people, is going to be some type of root-based vegetable. Now, it could be rice, could be something else, but root-based vegetable if you're following paleo, plant-based, all that's great for energy. And then another quarter will be a vegan protein, a fish, or a meat, depending on what plan you're following. And then a couple tablespoons of a healthy fat. For most people, super simple. You can do a smoothie for breakfast. Again, if you do the Dr. Ball detox, it will teach you how to do all of those things. So that's my recommendation. All right, Chris is up next. Hey, Dr. Ball. After finally healing my gut, and now I'm able to tolerate herbs such as ashwagandha, which used to give me brain fog and anxiety. Now I have no side effects and notice all the benefits finally. Congratulations, Chris. That's fantastic to hear. I'm taking the HPA to give me a little extra boost, healing my adrenals and cortisol balance. My next question is, I've heard that you should cycle adaptogens in order to prevent your body from getting used to them. With cycles such as 8 weeks, 4 weeks off. If so, should you cycle different adaptogens in the meantime? So far, the herb seems like they're doing wonders for my body. I just don't want to overdo it and lose the effects. Thanks. All right, Chris, there's not a lot of good evidence behind that, because you don't hit a maximum point and then your body, it stops working. So you hit it. Now, let me give a couple truths to that. So you do actually get to a set point where you're going to get the most out of the adaptogen that you can. But I would actually say that most adaptogens actually take somewhere from a good 3 to 6 weeks to really get you to that leveling off point. So I would have no problem with you using ashwagandha ongoing if you just really feel like it's a beneficial herb for you. Having said that, I'll always give you what I do myself and in my practice. Typically, people are on our adrenal energy support, which contains rhodiola and a bunch of great things for energy. And they're going to do that for about 12 to 16 weeks and then taper off. The reason they taper off is that we don't use anything long-term that we don't need to. That's just the truth. And then people will be on Adrenal Soothe in order to calm the cortisol levels, and they'll taper off after about the same 3 to 4 months as well. Typically, the adrenal energy support, people are doing 2 capsules with breakfast, 2 at lunch for energy, and people are doing the Adrenal Soothe at potentially 1 at lunch and 2 at dinner. And if they do an adrenal hormone test, and they find they have high cortisol all throughout the day, we'll do 1 in the morning, 1 at lunch, and 2 at dinner. That will allow them to really decrease those cortisol levels. And again, if they just have high cortisol in the evening and we need them to ramp down, get in that parasympathetic, we simply do 2 Adrenal Soothe with dinner or after dinner for bedtime. So Chris, hopefully that answers your question. I wouldn't be too worried about it not necessarily working for you. What I do with adaptogens myself personally, I just want to give you one more tip besides what I do with my private practice, is for myself, during more stressful times, I take those adrenal adaptogens, and what I do then is I wean off them right after I'm done with them during a stressful period of time. Let's say it's let's say it's January and I'm going around the country and I'm speaking at 6 different events. Okay, a lot going on, may not be getting as much sleep. I'll take my herbal adrenal adaptogens, typically the Adrenal Soothe, at the end of the day, 1 with lunch, and then 2 at dinner. And then that's what I do, and then I wean off. Hopefully that helps, Chris. All right, Lee's up next. Lee's asking, hello, Dr. Ball. First of all, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with the world. I find your story and what you do very inspiring. I'm grateful for your podcast. My question is related to hormones and cystic acne. I'm almost 40, not currently on birth control, but recently had a situation where I had to take the Plan B contraceptive. I really didn't want to do this, knowing how much it could mess up my hormones, but I felt this was the best case scenario considering the alternatives. This was about 6 weeks ago, and for the past month, I've been battling cystic acne on my chin and even a little bit of bloating and puffiness. I do have a history of cystic acne, but I cleared it up some time ago. I currently take probiotics, use natural skin products, and eat relatively clean. Is there anything I can do to reset my hormones and get back to normal? I'm just not sure where to start. Thank you for your advice. All the best, Lee. All right, Lee, great question. And, sometimes things in life, they happen. I totally understand that. I understand. So here's what you need to do. This sounds exactly like you assess that it is. It's some type of hormonal-based imbalance because you did take a hormonal-based product, and that now caused the cystic acne, especially around the chin, and then a little bit of that bloating. So here's what I would do. I would say, if you still have your normal cycle, I'm not sure that you do have a normal cycle back, But about 2 weeks into your cycle, you'll begin taking a product that we have called Estrogen Balance. Estrogen Balance will allow you then to decrease estrogen the second 14 days in your cycle, hopefully allowing you not to have that estrogen dominance, allow progesterone to come back up to normal levels, and then you'll stop taking it when you get your period on day 1. So the other thing I would add to that is kind of what I just recommended for our friend Chris right before. I would take the Adrenal Soothe throughout until you do get your period back, or until you get a cycle back. And I would take that with 1 at lunch and 2 at dinner as well for that product. Great product. I would do this for probably 2 cycles or so until you get a normal cycle back, potentially even 3. You can do additional, let's just say things aren't back to normal, honestly, Lee, in let's say 2 cycles. Run our thyroid adrenal hormone test, or just our adrenal hormone if you don't want to run your thyroid with it. That will let us look at your testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and your cortisol levels as well. So once we look at that, we'll be able to really see what's going on. And for you, we'd recommend taking it about 5 days before you do get day 1 of menstruation. So hopefully that helps. And let's see. We've got one more question today. It's a long one. So again, everyone head on over to StephenCabral.com/904. That's where all of today's show notes will be. That's where all the questions will be in full. And of course, that's where all the links for all the recommendations from today's show will be. All right, KD is asking, Dear Doc, I've tried most everything since my terminal diagnosis 7 years ago and refused to accept modern medicine. I've been cancer clear and healed a lot, but I'm still confused about what's left to heal. I have a very large tumor on my ovary. My body's been very sensitive with early menopause. I have some estrogen. I have to take some estrogen and progesterone. I have functional medicine and some tests in which have found to have lower levels of menopausal women. This was 2 years ago. I still get some hot flashes at night, but what was once life-destroying symptoms, I have managed to get down to annoying sleep interference symptoms. Plenty of veggies and fresh fish, a little fruit. I did have mold in my house last year. I have a lot of constipation, and nothing seems to help unless I take an herbal colon. Just trying, such a long question, and I'm sorry, it's a little jumbled as well. I'm sure that's not your fault. It just got a little jumbled coming in, that's all. So I reach out to you because of your extensive knowledge and gift experience. I've never done in contact with this before. I believe full health is possible, no matter what the previous challenges. I look back and wonder if, like other women, I always had hormonal issues, water retention, mood difficulties, and cancer. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because all you've done and learned has brought me a long way, but I need some help during this confused difficulties. Love and wishes, KD. P.S. I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot. Your podcast is exemplary. Thank you very much. KD, let me see if I can help. So a lot going on with this, but it seems like the majority of this is hormonal based. Now, I'd love to know why it's hormonal based. So that's the big issue with me, right? And by the way, I just want to say congratulations. I know the amount of work that I'm sure you had to do to get cancer-free and stay cancer-free to this day. So really, you deserve to be commended, and you're really exemplary for what you're doing, really being a pillar of natural health. So pretty amazing. What I would love to do is find out why you need to take estrogen and progesterone. I don't love women taking synthetic estrogen and synthetic progesterone just because of the potential complications with cancer. But again, if you need to take it, you need to take it. So I'm really open-minded to all of these things. I'm really not. It's just, I never want to take more than we have to. That's how I look at it. So, there's so much I want to recommend to you. So this is what I'd recommend. I'd recommend the Dr. Cabral Big 5, the Big 5 lab tests that I recommend. Certainly my recommendation. If you wanted to add a stool test onto that, of course, that would be absolutely fantastic. And of course, I know there's an expense to that, but you're looking at all the underlying root causes, like what if there's heavy metals, and what if there's low thyroid, what if there's low vitamin D? You're going to find all of those out in all those lab tests. So, if you had to not do one, well, actually, I would still do the omega-3 test, because then you're going to see if you have high levels of inflammatory omega-6s in your body. So, KD, really the bottom line is we want to look at a deeper level. You've already gone so deep in terms of healing. What I really recommend is if you're able to, run some of those lab tests. Maybe order of importance for you would be the thyroid adrenal hormone test to really assess what's going on with your hormones. Again, if you've already done that with another doctor, great, but it just doesn't seem like you've gotten to the point where you're happy. I know you've done so much great work, so that's tremendous. In terms of constipation, organic acids test and stool test, those clearly stand out as to what to do. After that would be a hair tissue mineral analysis, because you're going to want to figure out if you have high levels of minerals or if a lot of minerals have been kind of zapped out your body. Really, really important, especially if you've done a lot of colonics, if you've done a lot of herbal-based enemas. You can have removed a lot of essential minerals that way as well. What else would I recommend? Well, those are the main ones. Then after that, you have the omega-3 test, looking at inflammation. Amazing test. You have a food sensitivity test, of course, that you could run as well. So all great labs. I know that you've got a lot going on. Those are the ones that I would do. If you don't know what to do, if you don't know where to start, well, of course, we always recommend the Dr. Ball Detox, because the Dr. Ball Detox does so much all in one. Like, it's even hard to explain it. I've done many podcasts on what is a functional medicine detox. You can go back and tune into those. But really, like, if the body wants to fight cancer, if the body wants to fight anything, the liver has to be so strong. It has to be able to filter the blood of impurities. So for you, 14, 21-day detox, that's the place to start. But of course, run the lab test before you even do the detox. And then you can continue on with something like the Dr. Brawl Daily Protocol. Again, this is if you're not going to get a customized plan from us if you don't run the labs. But the Dr. Brawl Daily Protocol, after you do the 21-day Dr. Brawl Detox, is going to be for less than $5 a day. It's your daily nutritional support shake. It's your daily fruit and vegetable blend, 22 organic fruits and vegetables, no sugar really in it, 2 grams, very, very little, which is all natural, by the way, from the 22 organic fruits and vegetables. And then it's the daily probiotic support. That's what I do every day. That's what I do every morning. It's part of my smoothie routine. And I can't recommend it enough. I honestly can't. So hopefully that's a few different ways that you can get started, kind of different levels of getting started. And that's what I would recommend, again, for anyone in my private practice and anyone in my own family. That's where I would start. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much, KD, and thank you so much, everyone, for writing into our Cabral House Calls. I'll be back tomorrow with about another 6, 8, or 10 questions or so. Hopefully you'll tune in then. Have an amazing rest of the weekend. Take care. I'll talk with you soon. So happy you just tuned into today's show, and thank you so much again for your support. I have a very special announcement today. About 4 months ago, we partnered with Blender Bottle to create our own customized Equilibrium Nutrition all-in-one shaker bottles. These water bottles are specifically made to hold your vitamin capsules in one compartment, your shake powder in another compartment, while still allowing you to hold a 20-ounce smoothie or shake. I came across this design a couple years ago and knew that I wanted to adopt it for our online health community. This is literally the perfect shaker bottle to use while completing your Dr. Ball Detox or any one of our functional medicine protocols. It makes carrying around all of your supplements easy, and since it's virtually unbreakable, you can throw it in any bag and take it on the run. Plus, we've made this first debut of our exclusive blender bottle a beautiful, one-of-a-kind, all-white, limited edition design. And since I love doing these special offers, when it comes to new supplement formulations or natural health products, I want to give away this first run for free. This means that this month, while supplies last, we will ship you the all-white limited edition Pro Stack bottle on us with any qualifying order over $99 at equilibriumnutrition.com. The all-white Pro Stack bottles are a one-time only exclusive giveaway for our community and will not be sold in the future in this current design. To get yours while supplies last, simply go to equilibriumnutrition.com and place your functional medicine, lab, and nutritional supplement order, where you'll then have the option to add this unique shaker bottle free of charge to your order. I'm already using mine and loving it, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on one of these for free. Thank you again for your support, and head on over to equilibriumnutrition.com for all the details and to watch my demonstration video.